Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about bugs, dangerous bugs. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what is the most dangerous bug you have found inside an important codebase? All codebases are important, guys. Just saying. But the most dangerous one that I have found is, I'm very sorry to say at the same time, probably the one of the most common bugs there is. This I have experienced this bug uh, at school, and I've experienced it in practically every company I've ever been in, I think. And the bug is an IDOR exploit. Let's see if I remember the definition. IDOR stands for Indirect Object Reference, I think. You have to double check that. Now, this is the hackers or the pen testers' favorite treat. If they are a bug hunter or something like that, and they find one of these, and your company is part of a bug hunting program, they're going to have to pay through the nose for that fine because it's a very serious issue. Let me explain how it happens. Well, it's not. This is a simplified version of how it can happen. So I'm going to go with the toy example that does happen. But there are many other ways that this could happen, more advanced situations. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you're creating an account, a user account or something like that, and then you create a nice REST API. Well, you're probably going to create a post method where you can post like the initial data, like the information that the user has given you to create their account for them. And then you're probably going to might create a delete endpoint or something like that where you can remove the account. And then you're probably going to have at least a few, like a get. That should make sense, right? Should be able to get the thing as well, because now you created it, now you should be able to get it, right? And then in order to allow them to change things about their account, you're going to give them an update. Now, this is common as common can get. The thing that is scarily enough as common is that if you create a post or you create a similar sort of creating, like a creation function, you don't really have to check who's doing the creation. Usually you just send a bunch of data like username and so forth, and then you create the resource, and then that's it. But once you want to do things such as delete something or update something, and in some cases, not always, in some cases get, if it's private information, you need to validate that the request, the person who is accessing a specific user account, that's actually the person who's supposed to be able to do that. That is the basics of what an IDOR is. If I go to my Facebook account and I go to my URL, and I will see, I don't know, I don't have Facebook, but any account, and I check the ID, it usually says something like /user/ very, very weird thing for the people who are not programmers. That's usually an ID. What happens if you change that ID? And if you change that ID and the server isn't checking that you are logged in as one specific type of user, you have a user session. If they're not checking that you're actually trying to get something that doesn't belong to you, you're gonna get that thing. And the scary part of about this bug is that there is no clean way to fix it, except for to remember to test. To write tests. Always remember this. You always have to do this validation. You have to do it whenever you are dealing with an existing resource. Because as soon as you get something that is private or something that somebody else owns in the mix, that already exists within the system, someone might just change that ID, and all of a sudden they can delete somebody else's account, they can get like their private information, or they can update their account. And it happens all the time. I'm not going to say who, but at my school there was this dude who got hired he made a website for his sports, like they had like a foundation or something like that around sports and so forth, and he made this exact mistake. And it was kind of funny because he built it over the summer and it had been running and they were kind of happy with it. And on the first day, one of my classmates, who's like he had been working for a few years, and he just kind of went in and tried it, and like the first thing he did was like literally do that thing. And sure enough, he could actually get other people's user accounts. And so he had a very small little lecture. He was a little bit of an asshole about the whole thing and laughed and thought it was funny, but then after he kind of settled down, he finally told us that, guys, you have to check that the session that you have created is matching the thing that people are trying to do things with, because if you don't, you basically give everybody root access to everything. You just have to change you guess what somebody else's ID is, and then you can do whatever you want. So what I want you to take away from this is that if there is one single thing that you should always remember whenever you're making any implementation of a web interface like a REST API or whatever, it is always, if you're dealing with a controlled resource, such as something that you need a session to access, you have to write a test that verifies that if I log in with user ID 1 and I try to delete user ID 2, that I can't do that. Because that is one of the most serious bugs that you can have in your system, and you have to be on constant lookout for it, because you cannot lint it away, you can't like type it away or anything. It's a pure logical error that is practically impossible for you to circumvent in any other way apart from remembering that it needs to be checked for. I will even go as far as to tell you, create your own to-do list, like whenever, like just a reminder, check for IDORs, or check for any type of exploit that is related to me being able to exploit somebody else's account when I'm not that user. Have a great day.